How do the pros throw so far with such little effort? How do you sync up the power between your lower body and your upper body? What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? What do you mean, African or European? Well, in this video, I'm going to answer all of those questions except the last two. And the answer is actually in Paris, of all places. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it's really hot out here and I've already got the B-roll I need. So, yeah, I'm gonna head inside by the AC. Transition! Before we get started, if you don't know, I spend a lot of my time playing and streaming video games, probably a little bit too much. But I've been doing that recently on Twitch, but I've recently made a YouTube channel because I wanted to try streaming it on YouTube. And so that'll be the first link down in the description. I'm trying to get that to 1,000 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate it if you go over there, drop that a sub, maybe hang out and talk some disc golf and make fun of me for being bad at video games. Anyway, on to the rest of the video. So this thing about swallows, right? So they're designed to have an aerodynamic property that allows them to carry coconuts. Those are the other two questions. That's right, okay. The complete solution to syncing up the power in your lower body and your upper body is kind of a combination of timing and balance. And I've made a number of videos on timing in the past about reach back timing and X-stepping properly. So this one is gonna focus on balance. Now, balance is important because it lets you create the proper framework so that your lower body is strong enough to send that power. It creates like a framework for your body to rotate around as you throw. So the main thing that creates a problem is leaning backwards while you're trying to throw. If you lean backwards, that takes a lot of the weight that's in your upper body and offsets it from your axis of rotation, right? You're kind of trying to rotate as you throw, but if you're leaning backwards, then that weight can't rotate very efficiently because it's just offset from the center. Whereas if you stay vertical, if you keep your spine straight up and down, then you can rotate a lot more efficiently. Editing Danny here. I never explained Paris. The Paris thing is like, if you're staying balanced, your spine is vertical, your front foot and your back foot are like the legs of the Eiffel Tower. That's what I like to think of whenever I'm watching somebody throw. I look for the Eiffel Tower. I look for that front leg, back leg, spine in the middle, creates the shape of an Eiffel Tower. Yeah, I kind of forgot to say that. Okay, cool. Back to the video. Now, when I say a vertical spine, I don't mean front to back as well. Your spine's going to be tilted over your toes a little bit so that your weight's over your toes and you're more balanced. But from side to side, you don't really want to be leaning backwards or leaning forwards. You want to stay vertical so you can rotate the most efficiently. This is an incredibly common thing that I see a lot of amateurs struggle with. It's one of the most important things that I look for when I'm looking at someone's form for a form check that I do on stream. But the most common causes of it are usually either moving too fast or jumping while you X-step. So when you move too fast, it's common for your feet just to get going a lot faster than your upper body, and that means that your feet just kind of get out front. And the same sort of thing happens when you jump while you X-step. Now, there is a correct way to do this, known as a Brinster hop. It was obviously used by Steve Brinster quite a bit, and he's really good at it. And Eric Oakley does kind of a similar thing if you watch his feet, but usually a jump just basically moves your feet in front of you. So one of the easiest ways to try and stay vertical while you're throwing is just don't jump. Just keep one foot on the ground all the time. The same thing happens if you take too big of an X-step, because reaching your left foot way out front also brings your feet in front of your upper body and tilts you backwards and creates that offset weight again. Another thing that could be causing that problem is reach back timing. If you reach back early, your arm is weight, it's heavy, and so it could be pulling your balance behind you, and then if you take another step, that could cause you to lose your balance even more behind your feet. And kind of a similar thing happens with a way that a lot of people have taught reach back timing in the past, and that's walking around the disc. It's common, you'll see people talk about how when pros throw, the disc doesn't really move when they reach back. It's really cool. It starts in front of them and then they reach back and they take their last step, and it's almost like the disc stays still and their body moves forward. But I don't necessarily think that's a good thing to focus on because the timing of that is so important. And mechanically, the disc staying still is really not that important. So what happens a lot of times is, especially if you're timing it incorrectly, is if you leave the disc in one spot, you can just walk too far and then you're leaning backwards again. Or you might take a step in front of your disc, in which case you have a rounded reach back, or a lot of problems come from that. But I mean, it's effectively what will happen if you have proper reach back timing for some people, but I don't think it's necessarily a good thing to focus on because it can cause you to lean back. Another byproduct of leaning back is too big of a last step, and that's a problem because you can't really rotate if your feet are too far apart. You just have no mobility in your hips. And the reason that leaning back causes this is because it basically tilts your whole body back. And so If the ground was also tilted back, then your front foot would hit the ground at a normal time. But because the ground is kind of tilted down relative to what your feet are doing, that means that your left foot is on the ground, so it's in place, but you have upward momentum or forward momentum from your upper body, so you just end up taking a bigger step because your foot's not on the ground yet. And so it can be a cause of the open-toed stance, kind of where your toes are farther apart than your heels. That forces your weight over your heels, causes a bunch of other issues. But yeah, so leaning backwards can also cause that too big of a last step. So how do you fix it if you've noticed that you're leaning back while you're throwing? Well, the easiest way to fix it, and the number one thing to always look for, is whether or not you're going too fast. If you're moving really quickly, your feet can just get ahead of your upper body sometimes and cause you to lean back. This is also a lot of times what happens if you jump while you X-step, like I talked about earlier. So it's important to make sure that you just keep your feet on the ground. Unless you're Simon Lizotte throwing a 360 or something like that, just keep at least one foot on the ground, and you'll find that you actually feel a lot more grounded and you'll have a lot more power when you're throwing. Another thing is take a smaller X-step. Like I said earlier too, if you take too big of an X-step, that just scoots your left foot in front of your upper body, and that causes you to lean back, and that can cause some other issues. If you'd like a drill to work on this, a really good drill is swivel stairs from Seabass 22. To do the swivel stairs, you basically walk sideways, kind of X-stepping and un-X-stepping down some stairs. And as you X-step, you reach back, and as you take the next step, you rotate forward, which doesn't exactly translate to the timing in a throw, but for this drill, it gets you the idea of rotating while you're walking sideways. And going downstairs, you can't really do that if you're leaning back. It forces you to stay vertical. So that's a fantastic drill if you're struggling with this. And also, you can try to film yourself and see what you're doing. This is one of the easiest things to notice as long as your camera isn't also tilted. Anyway, as long as your camera's level, it's really easy to notice if you're leaning backwards. Just look while you're throwing if your torso is over your left leg, because that usually means that you have leaned back too far. Now, there are some exceptions. I know somebody's going to screenshot this and send it to me in a comment or something. There are some times when pros will lean backwards, and that's usually when they're trying to throw up and over something that they wouldn't be able to throw up and over if they just threw their normal shot, but higher. So if you are trying to get way up and over something, like going for the massive Spike Heiser, huge Annie, something like that, not necessarily for something like rollers, but for big high shots, then you will see a lot of the pro players lean back so that they can get that even more of an upward angle on their disc, but they are sacrificing power doing that. And so if you can just compensate for the height by changing your reach back angle, that's the best way to do it, because then you get to keep that power that comes from staying vertical while you're rotating. Anyway, those are my thoughts on leaning back while you're throwing and how important it is to stay vertical. I tried to make this video short enough so that you can link it to somebody who's posted a form check and is struggling with this issue, so they can find out what they're doing wrong and how to fix it as quick as possible. If you don't know, I just got a kitten. She's currently 14 weeks old. She's right now at the vet. But if you want to come say hi to her, definitely subscribe to that YouTube channel where I'm going to be doing my live streams. I also do the Disc Golf Pro Tour companion streams there whenever I'm available and there's live coverage from the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I'll go live on that channel and we can talk about the coverage as it's happening. And it's usually a pretty good time. So if you want to come hang out there, I would really appreciate a sub. Like I said, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. Thanks for watching, and always remember, slow is smooth and smooth is far. Hey Tracer, come here. Ah, come here. I need to get a clip of you to put in my next video. Look, she's not gonna be here tomorrow when I'm recording the video, but I'll at least have a clip that I can put. Okay, you gotta go. All right. Keep the claws away. She jumped at me like, yeah, you better run.